I wanted to talk about what I mean when I say to leave your thinking alone, to quiet your mind. And I love so much when Michael Neal says the fastest way to quiet your mind is to do nothing to quiet your mind. But I know just to leave it at that might be unsatisfactory because you're like, what do you mean? Do nothing. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Before coming into the three principles understanding and truly understanding human psychological functioning, understanding anxiety, understanding physical symptoms, understanding panic attacks, there was a lot I did to quiet my mind. I did tapping, emotional freedom technique, yoga, grounding, meditation, mindfulness, mantras, essential oils, like, shaking it out, finger holds, thought work, looking at my cognitive distortions, and I'm not knocking any of these things. But for me, the more I did, the more noise that was added to my head, the more resistance I had to anxiety, to panic, the more thinking. And when we have a lot of thinking, we don't feel good. Michael Neal also talks about this universal diagnosis, too much noise in head. And so when I talk about leaving your thinking alone, it comes with this understanding that not all thoughts are true. Not all thoughts are even yours. Not all thoughts are worthy of your attention. And when you understand that, it makes it easier to leave your thinking alone. So say, for example, you have some travel coming up, and it might be that you're anxious about driving or flying or being away from your home, being away from a hospital, being away from your partner or your children. There's so many things that might ignite that anxious thinking. But that your thinking is off base when it comes to travel. That your brain loves you so much, and its job is to keep you safe, not to keep you happy. So, until now, when you've traveled, there's just been a barrage of thinking. And maybe until now, you've really given those thoughts a lot of your attention, but you're realizing that doesn't actually work. It's not really making you feel good. So now, though, you're going to travel, you notice all these thoughts coming, but you leave them alone because that's just your brain kind of narrating your experience, sharing its opinion. You might still be in the habit of what ifing, thinking that you need to think about things to keep yourself safe. And it's easier to leave your thinking alone when you realize that it is safe not to think so much, that there's actually something beyond your brain, beyond your intellect, the thing that's powering your brain that's there to keep you safe. So that you are made of wisdom, just as we all are, just as this plant is, that there's this wisdom and common sense that's built into you, that if anything happens, future you will know how to handle it. So you're like, well, why would I ruminate or worry about this now? Because one, it's unnecessary. And if anything happens, future me will handle it. And in a way, also, it will get handled for me because we have access to moment by moment wisdom at the precise moment we need it and not a moment before. So if anxious thinking pops up, and it could just be maybe you're going to a work event, you're going to present at a meeting, and you might not even be aware of that you have anxious thoughts, but you start feeling anxious. And you can just really have this deep knowing that there's some anxious thinking going on, but you don't need to do anything about it. You don't need to figure it out because the wonderful thing is thoughts are transient. So we can have a bunch of anxious thinking about anything. It can come. We don't really give it much attention because we know there's no need to. It's not truth. It's not reality, even if we feel really anxious. But we can know just because we feel something strongly doesn't mean it's true. So all these thoughts can swirl or we can feel really anxious, but we can rest assured that new thoughts are going to come because that is the nature of thought. It's transient. And you see that all the time. When you go to one room to get something and you get there and you're like, what did I come here for? Because that thought flew out of your mind, and that can happen, whether it's about travel, a work presentation, worrying that an intrusive thought might come when you're out at a dinner party, anything. That thought can come And without you doing anything, it will be replaced by a new thought, because that's how thoughts work. So that's kind of fleshing out what I mean by leaving your thinking alone, because then you also see how great it feels, how you're never stuck in suffering. You can be out at a supermarket and have the thought, what if I have a panic attack? Where's the exit? And you don't need to like hop on board and be like, oh, yeah, where's the exit? That thought can come and you can just kind of let it be there. Like a bus. If you're at the bus stop and a bus comes and it's not your bus, you just leave it alone. You're like, and then that bus goes, just like your thoughts. And then your bus comes, So that's one thing about leaving your thinking alone. And it's kind of the same thing for quieting your mind, because as I said before, quoting Michael Neal, nothing quiets a mind faster than doing nothing to quiet your mind. And in a way, it's like the anxiety can build up into this frantic point and you just notice it, but it's no big deal. And when we accept something, even if we don't like it, we experience it with more ease and it flows more easily. So if you notice that your mind is busy, is noisy, is fast, which still happens to me, whether sometimes it just happens, or sometimes I've drank a lot of caffeine, or I'm more nervous about something and my thoughts feel fast. Not getting spooked by that, not resisting it, not coming in and being like, just noticing it. And I guess for me, and this is where I'm not saying any specific technique, but for me, it's knowing I'm not stuck there. My mind can feel really fast and furious. And just by me noticing that and knowing, oh, that's why I can feel uncomfortable. That's soothing. It's grounding to me. In a way, it's like a tap on the shoulder, a wake-up call to get present. So one way that our mind quiets is when we get present, but not in like a forceful way, not with any agenda, just noticing, oh, but knowing, having that deep knowing that you're not stuck there. Because you can feel like your mind feels really noisy. And then when you get present, sometimes it gets quieter. Sometimes it doesn't quiet down as fast as we wanted, but also just knowing that that's okay. And it's so exciting that kind of the moment you just accept it and you get present. The next thing you look, you're like, oh, my mind's not as loud, but you didn't do anything to quiet your mind. And I guess also if you notice that you got a lot of anxious thinking, you might take it as an invitation to get quiet. And then what might come up is, I need to shut this laptop. I need a break. I've been sitting here working, or even just thinking about work. And what might come to you is, I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to bed for the night, or I'm going to take a nap. Or I'm going to call a friend, or I don't think I've eaten. Have I drank any water today? And I'm not saying these as techniques because that wouldn't really be helpful. But if you notice that you're thinking, you're just not really feeling good, that can be an invitation to just get quiet and see what comes up. And it might look like you actually are doing something, but it's going to be perfectly tailored to you. And it won't be with the thought, I need to quiet my mind. It just might be this deep knowing, oh, I think that will feel good. When we've got a lot of anxious thinking, it's like we're all shaken up, like the snow globe. But when you just leave your thinking alone, it settles. We are designed to always come back into balance, to always settle. There is so much less for you to do.